What is the ultimate goal? As I said, the ultimate goal is the destruction of the Bhartiya civilization, annihilation of the Hindus, and Brahmins just happen to be in the way first. There is a charitra called Nandana Charitra, where a person was, a very devout person was supposed to go and worship at the temple, and there was this Brahmin landlord of him who didn't allow him to go, and this. So this actually was not there in the original scripture at all. But when they visualized it, or when they were writing the script for it, somehow this Brahmin landlord came out of thin air. In his treatise, he even talks about how the privileges which were given to Brahmins were actually nothing in reality. And the only exemption which was allowed in the Dharma Shastra was that the Brahmin will not be killed, but he will be chased out of the country, and his shikha will be cut, and he will be branded. All the other things are given to him also.
श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। सभा में उपस्थित सभी सदस्यों को नमस्कार। मैं अनुभव पांडे संगम टॉक्स द्वारा आयोजित आज के इस पुस्तक विमोचन सत्र में उपस्थित सभी अतिथियों का स्वागत करता हूं। आज हम सब मिलकर एक विशेष पुस्तक के विमोचन समारोह में उपस्थित हैं। इस अवसर पर हमें गर्व हो रहा है कि हम एक नई यात्रा की शुरुआत कर रहे हैं, जो ज्ञान और सुखद अनुभवों से भरपूर होगी। जिस पुस्तक का विमोचन होने जा रहा है, उस पुस्तक का नाम कुरान तो है पर मुसलमान कोई नहीं है। इसके लेखक हैं श्री रामेश्वर मिश्र पंकज जी और प्रोफेसर कुसुमलता केडिया जी। रामेश्वर पंकज मिश्र जी धर्मपाल शोधपीठ भोपाल के पूर्व निर्देशक थे, पूर्व न्यासी सचिव, भारत भवन भोपाल। दर्शन, राजनीति, इतिहास पर 25 से अधिक पुस्तकें प्रकाशित हैं। डॉक्टर कुसुमलता केडिया जी एक विकास अर्थशास्त्री हैं जो भू राजनीति, लैंगिक मुद्दे, एक चर्च शासित राज्य के रूप में यूरोप और भारत में धर्म राज्य जैसे विभिन्न विषयों की विशेषज्ञ हैं। हमारे आज के मुख्य अतिथि हैं सुरेश चौहानके जी। सुरेश चौहानके जी सुदर्शन न्यूज के अध्यक्ष, प्रबंध निदेशक, एडिटर इन चीफ है। ये टीवी शो बिंदास बोल के मेजबान है। हमारे बीच श्री विष्णु शंकर जैन जी उपस्थित हैं, अधिवक्ता। विष्णु शंकर जैन जी एक समर्पित वकील हैं जो हिंदू स्थलों को पुनः प्राप्त करने की प्रतिबद्धता के लिए जाने जाते हैं। एक मजबूत कानूनी पृष्ठभूमि के साथ उन्होंने साथी वकील और पिताजी आदरणीय अधिवक्ता हरिशंकर जैन जी के साथ ज्ञानव्यापी मामले में सक्रिय रूप से महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाई है। दोनों वकील हिंदू विरासत स्थलों की सुरक्षा और पुनर्स्थापना के अनेक अटूट प्रयासों के लिए जाने जाते हैं। विष्णु शंकर जैन जी की वकालत अदालत कच्छ से परे तक फैली हुई है, जो हिंदू समुदाय के लिए इन स्थलों के सांस्कृतिक महत्व पर जोर देती है। हमारे बीच महालिंगम बालाजी मौजूद हैं जो ब्राह्मण जेनोसाइड पुस्तक के लेखक हैं। वैदिक वंश और अग्निहोत्री से आने वाले वह एक कॉर्पोरेट नेता हैं और अनुसंधान निदेशक थे। वे भारतीय परंपराओं पर शोध में सहायता के लिए एक संस्थागत तंत्र विकसित करने पर काम कर रहे हैं। वह ASI उपनाम से पुस्तक और लेख लिखते हैं। आदरणीय कौशलेंद्र सिंह जी भी हमारे बीच मौजूद हैं, बड़े राजा, चंदापुर, रायबरेली। डॉक्टर पीयूष प्रताप सिंह जी, असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर, JNU। हरीश गोयल जी और पूजनीय सीताराम गोयल जी के बड़े पुत्र आदरणीय श्री सरोज गोयल जी भी मौजूद हैं। एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण मुद्दा, बहुत महत्वपूर्ण चर्चा और पुस्तक ब्राह्मीण जेनोसाइड पर वक्तव्य रखने के लिए मैं आमंत्रित करना महालिंगम बालाजी को।
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste to all of you. First of all, congratulations to Rameshwar Mishra ji and for Kusumlata Kedia ji for a wonderful book. Yes, I couldn't read it because of the shortness of time, but yesterday and day before yesterday I was interacting with them. Their vast knowledge is really something which we all have to learn from them. Thank you so much for your being there in our book launch 2 days back. And namaste to all the audience over here and to those on the stage. I'll take about 15-20 minutes to talk about a topic called the Brahmin Genocide. This is the name of the book, and this book is now into the second edition. And during the last few months when we were talking, a lot of questions did come about. So I have kind of prepared some of those questions, so I will myself bring it up and then answer them, then you could do this. First question which comes up is, what is the main topic of this book? इस किताब में what are the main points? There is a civilizational battle which is going on for 200 plus years at the minimum. And what is this civilizational battle about? This is about destroying the Bhartiya civilization and the traditional knowledge systems of the Bhartiya civilization. This is not like a military war, because we all see in CNN and others, all these wars which are happening, you can see all the gun smoke, all the fire and everything. Civilizational war don't happen like that. It happens for years, sometimes even for centuries. But no mistake, at the end of the civilizational war, the casualties are far, far higher than that of a military war. So that is the nature of a civilizational battle. Now, what is the goal? As I said, it is the annihilation of the Bhartiya civilization. That is the whole focus of this. And why is it being done? The first thing being done there is to separate the Brahmins from rest of the Hindu society. And what is so special about it? Because when they started this, they felt that the traditional knowledge systems, they felt Brahmins were the custodians of it. Hence, they need to be first targeted, they need to be separated. That is how the whole battle had started. So sometimes people ask me, hey, is it only for Brahmins which we are speaking? I say, please don't worry. Every other community will get an equal opportunity. You will also be targeted for that, but it is happening slowly. Once something is done, they will use the same thing for the other communities. That is what is going to happen. Correct? So this was a historical legacy which is being carried over after the post-colonial era as well. So we all have to work together to solve this. The first thing which happens in this is the hate speech. Previously, during the colonial era, it was very unabashed. Now with all this freedom of speech and with all these others coming in, now people have become more sophisticated, so the hate is being kind of put it in a very, what should I say, in an indirect way. So we have to understand some of the techniques which are happening there. Now the next question which comes up is, what is the ultimate goal? As I said, the ultimate goal is the destruction of the Bhartiya civilization, annihilation of the Hindus, and Brahmins just happen to be in the way first. So that is how this civilizational battle runs. Now how do they do this? The second question which comes up often is, why did you title this as genocide? Is it for selling more books? Is it for selling publicity, getting some publicity? That is the next question which naturally comes up. The word genocide has been used after careful application of the mind based on facts. There is a worldwide model of genocide which has been started by, I think, Dr. Stanton with 8 stages. He made it into 10 stages later. So what we have done is we have taken the characteristic of each stage. So the stages goes like, they say, classification, symbolization, discrimination, dehumanization, like that. It goes on like 10 stages. Each characteristics is there. We have actually compared those stages with what is actually happening to Brahmins. It is not 200 years back kahani, or it is not a future looking, it is for today's state. And what we have done is, because I know this question will come, because of this publicity, have we done it? No. So I have requested my team to create a website called BrahminGenocide.org. Okay, so whoever has got Google can search that. In that BrahminGenocide.org, we have actually put in those 10 stages, compared it to the actual sthiti of the Brahmins today. So those who want to read it, they can just go and read it. They don't even have to buy the book. So it is not a publicity stunt. So you are with me so far? Yes, no? Yes. Thank you. Now the next thing is, historically, is there any evidence of Brahmin genocide? Pre-independence era, we have put some things on the book. After independence, the one famous example is what happened after Mahatma Gandhiji's assassination to Chitpaund Brahmins. It is an undocumented story, right? And that is what is the characteristic of some of the Hindu genocides in general when we study, is the lack of data and the lack of what we call as an focus on that. Right? Somehow they tend to be kind of put into the back burner, so to speak. Now, we have also given a term called Brahmophobia. So the people ask, why do you give a new term, Brahmophobia? Because Brahmin hate speech, we are calling it as Brahmophobia. And the reason I have given this name is, if we want to talk about a topic, first we need to recognize there is a problem. That is the first step to solve a problem. People don't even talk about the Brahmin hate speech. So how do we solve the problem? So we have to put a name for it. Let's name it as Brahmophobia. So we have also defined it. We call it as Brahmophobia, we define it as hatred, fear, contempt, prejudice against Brahmins, their religious symbols, their practices and belief. And sometimes what happens is, individual actions are also put in as the community's action and community gets criticized. That is one way of how Brahmophobia operates. Another way how it operates is, even whatever is happening in the society is put it as something which is sanctioned by the Brahmin community. That is the other way it happens. And there are certain techniques which also are used. Some of those techniques we have also documented in the book. So I do have quite a lot of them, but I couldn't put it because then it becomes like a 500-page book. And usually I find that 500-page books end up in the bookshelf. And they tend to stay there. So we wanted to keep it to the minimum, so we put in all the most important ones there. Now the next question which comes up is, hate speech mein kya hai, right? It is all social media now, everybody does, it's some ranting, so why do you have to worry about, usme kya hota hai, right? But what really happens is this, hate speech does not stay just on the online. It comes into the physical world. There is evidence of it, which we have documented there. And one famous study is there where in Facebook, in Germany, they have actually done a research to look at what is called as the anti-refugee sentiments. Whenever those sentiments are going up, the physical attack on the refugees is also happening there. So there is a direct correlation. So we can't say it is a cause, but there is a direct correlation. And there are also some military manuals which we have documented in the book where it says aggression online can lead to real life violence. So we cannot just take it out as random. The second thing about is, even in Myanmar, Facebook itself has acknowledged in a research that their tool was used to incite offline violence. So we have plenty of such evidence and research which is available. Now the next thing which comes up is, okay, hate speech I understand. What is so special cause about Brahmin hate speech? Right? It is like any other hate speech. There are three answers to that. First, what happens is, we need to first understand, as part of the civilizational war, that first focus, the target is the Brahmins because they want to take away the traditional knowledge systems. As of today, there are close to maybe 3 or 4 crores, depending on which account you say, of our Sanskrit manuscripts which have not even been read and documented. Okay? Those are our traditional knowledge systems and we haven't got even access to them. Okay? That is the war which we have to fight. Now second is, when there is a fire, first we have to first address that rather than generalize the problem. Okay? So hence we are focusing on the Brahmin hate speech first. It doesn't mean whatever we are learning here will be helpful to all other communities as well. So it is not just the isolated one. We have to learn from here and we have to use it for every other community as well, because hate against anybody or any community should have zero tolerance. It has no space in a democratic country. Third one is, obviously Brahmins are a minority in many parts of India and they don't have the kind of resources or the energy to go and defend themselves against this. Hence, this is a critical issue for us. Okay. The next one, this is a subject where the Brahmins themselves get attacked within the Hindu community or within even the Indian community, Bhartiya Nagarization, because of what we call as misreading or reading of scriptures. That is one of the techniques which we call in the book. Okay. They selectively quote or misquote. Okay. Even how many of you might have seen a triangle which says Brahmins first, then there is a Kshatriyas, then there is a Vaishyas, and there is a Shudras? How many of us have seen that? Right. I see almost everybody has seen that. I've been always asking this question, which scripture is it supposed to have come from? कहाँ पे वो लिखा है? When I ask this question, even when I do the Purva Paksha with others, then they come up with this saying it comes in the Purusha Sukta. So the Purusha Sukta, the hymn is very simple. The shloka says, Brahmanosi mukamasit bahura janyakritah uru dayat dayat vaishyas padbhyam sudro ajayat. It says from the same Purusha, from the mouth came the Brahmanas, and then the other three Varnas which came from the same Purusha. That is how it describes. Now I will read you how a Western scholar has written it. The 4 classes of society, and then they start with this. I'll just read the most relevant part. His mouth became the priest. All Vedic priests are Brahmin, though not all Brahmins are priests. Okay, so this is their definition of Vedic era. Okay, I don't know how they got it from. The most relevant one which says is his feet. They talk about the Purusha, the lowest and dirtiest part of the body. The servants, in the brackets it put Shudras, the outside class within society that defines the other classes. That the Shudras were an afterthought is evident from the fact that the third class, Vaishyas, is sometimes said to be derived from the word for all, than therefore to mean everyone. I am reading it from a scholar's book, okay? Leaving no room for anybody below them. So now there are 3 straight away you can see misinterpretations. Lowest and dirtiest part. ये कहाँ से आ गया? It was not there. And when a Purusha is being given a bali, one can argue whether a bali happens when the Purusha is standing straight or is it done this way. Typically from what we know of, a bali is done in a horizontal position. When it is done in a horizontal position, the feet are not necessarily low. And feet are not necessarily considered dirty in our drishti at all. Right? I have only heard of Pada Puja. Right? So when we see elders, we touch their feet. So this is a very common thing in our culture. So how alien drishti has come into this? Right? That is how text meaning gets read into it. And now there is Shudras were an afterthought because they come from the Aryan invasion theory, and then they say because people here were subjugated, they were made Shudras. So that is how the story goes. Now, if Vaishyas means the word for all, right? We don't need to learn any great scholarship of Western scholar. If a word means for all, then my understanding, simple understanding is, usko upar bhi kuch nahi hona chahiye na. All means all. So how did Brahmanas come first and then Kshatriyas come? And second is, if somebody wanted to add, when there is a all, will they add before or will they add later? So these are considered great proof by the Western scholars. And what happens? People start believing in them. We don't get to read our own scriptures, unfortunately. And all the division within the society starts happening, fault lines start getting created. Okay. Now, and there is this beautiful word which I still couldn't understand. Shudras are the outside class within the society. So they are within the society, but they define the other classes. They are outside as well as they are within. I could not understand. If anybody could understand, maybe offline you can tell me how somebody can be outside and also can be within. Right? This is how Western scholarship is. Okay. Now, based on that, I believe one famous personality has also said we should rewrite Purusha Sukta. Achhi baat hai, right? My question is, what is the problem with Purusha Sukta? There is where the interesting part comes. And people, I give all this information, they still say, from the same body I understand all this, but why can't we say everybody is equal? I said, where is it said it is not equal? Right? That is itself not given. Correct? I can't answer a negative. Right? How could I do that? Now, in which way I will give you one more answer. There is an Upanishad called Brihadaranya Upanishad. it comes to us from the sacred Shukla Yajurveda corpus. Okay. That is comes from there. In the Brihadaranya Upanishad, the same Srishti is being talked about. I won't say the full slokas, but I will just give you the brief of it. It says, Brahmava idamakrasit ekameva tadegagni channav vibhavati tasshreyo rupa matya sridadaga shatram vani edani. Then the next line will start as Chanaiva vibhavati sa visham ashrijadaha. Then the third line says, Chanaiva vibhavati sa shaudram varnam ashridarja bhushanam iyam vaibhushe yagne hi dakne sarvam pushyadi yadidam kincha. These are the three lines. What that line says is, there was a fire. That fire became Brahmana, but it could not flourish. Because it could not flourish, it became a Kshatriya. The third one, it still could not flourish. So, it became a Vaishya. It still could not flourish, it became a Shudra. This is the verse. So, these are the four interpretations. Now, first question which people will ask is immediately they ask, did you bring some random text? Because this Guruji would have read something somewhere. We have so many books, no? Kuch library mein kuch, there was some small kitab. No, it is not. It is actually one of the 15 principal Upanishad I am talking about. This is Brihadaranya Upanishad. You can go and search for it. Second question which comes up with, maybe somebody might have overseen it. Right? So many texts are there, so many shlokas are there. The Western scholars, how could we expect them to read? Answer is no, because the three shlokas I said before, right before that there is the first shloka which starts with Brahmava idamakrasi tadatmana meva veda aham brahmasmititi. Aham brahmasmititi is one of the Mahavakyas of the Shukla Yajurveda. So they couldn't have missed it. Right? There are only 4 Mahavakyas for all the 4 sacred Vedas. They couldn't have missed it. So why was this never discussed? Now the last interesting part. We talked about the 4, but the 5th line of the shloka also goes, that is where it gets interesting. It says, Chanaiva vyavavadu tashreyo rupam atyarsidhyadika dharmam thadet. It says. So what it means is, if we have to draw a triangle, like what, because Western scholars seem to always write this triangle, if we really want to draw the triangle, Dharma and Kshatriya have to be first, and below all the 3 Varnas have to come. That is one way of drawing the triangle. Now, Western scholars read more into it, right? We call it eisegetical translation because they want to read what they want to read. But if we want to supply, there is a word which comes in the second line of the shloka saying, Tas Shreyo Rupam. In the 5th line of the shloka also, it says Shreyo Rupam. Shreyo is, you can call it as a better form, and then the best, excellent form, you can call it as Shreyas. That is the word in Sanskrita. Okay. So, if you supply the Shreyo word into the other 2, assume they are the missing ones, I am not reading from the text. Then the order becomes even more interesting. It becomes Dharma first, then it becomes Kshatriya, then it becomes Shudra, then it becomes Vaishya, then finally last becomes the Brahmana. This is what the text says. So why was this not shown as an alternative view which was available? Now, one last final point about how our systems believed in equality. The word which goes for dharma, where it says, the shloka says, Dasmat dharmat param nasti. There is nothing better than dharma. It says that. And why it says, it gives an answer, Abaliyan baliyan samasamste. It says, because dharma is there, then even the might will not win. Because then only the Kshatriya's rule will be there. If there is no dharma, we need to have dharma. So even a person, weak person, says that I have got the righteousness on my part, hence I will be able to fight against a bigger enemy if the dharma is on my side. I have not heard of a better equality in any other scripture, saying more clearly about why dharma is. Okay. So, my request is whenever you hear all these misinterpretations, please do go back into the original source and read it. Don't just read the. So next question which comes up with, okay, we heard all this, because all the Western thought and all the thing which what has taught me for so many years is whenever I go for anything, I say, what is in it for me? Right? So that is the thing which I also want to give an answer for what is there in the book. First is we need to be aware of the battle. If we are not even aware of the battle, how are we going to fight this? So next one is, if we are not fighting the battle, then somebody else is winning the battle. Utna bhi clear. The last question is, what can we do? We can do three things. First is, we have to realize hate speech we cannot give back hate speech. That is not going to work, and that is not allowed as well. So we need to find a way to address this hate speech issue. Second is, we need to understand what techniques these guys are using, and we need to address those techniques. And fourth is, we need to go back and then be very clear with our scriptures and our Bhartiya narrative, and make sure that we feel the confidence and we are not giving room for all the fault lines to be exposed in the society. Because the more such fault lines are being brought into our society, then the Bharatian civilizational battle will not be won, because we will have fractures in our own side of the army, whereas the enemy knows exactly where to press the button for the fault lines. So that is the key issue out over here. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आदरणीय गुरुजी आपका, आपने बहुत सुंदर से विषय को प्रस्तुत किया.
You have, of course, in the book, I understand, written in great detail. There are two other things, aspects of this demonization of Brahmins, which has really, which I have noted and which is very effective. One is the popular portrayals in popular media, be it serials, be it any sort of, whether movies or TV, television, or any other popular this thing. And the second thing is misrepresentation, not just misrepresentation, but falsification of the current narrative and the past narrative. That is the historical narrative as well as the present current narrative. It is very common in the popular media to show that there has been atyachar done by Brahmins. So what is how to put, this is so prevalent that it is difficult to even get across to people, saying, when has that atyachar happened in the 8,000-year-old or 10,000-year-old history? So how do you say this, would you say that this can be addressed? Because it is widespread. So much so that it's almost accepted as a fact that after all they have been atyacharis, so now they're getting their due.
Thanks. First is about the movies and in the media, the misrepresentation. That is a serious issue. Typical example I will give is from the south, where there is a charitra called Nandana Charitra, where a person was, a very devout person, was supposed to go and worship at the temple, and there was this Brahmin landlord of him who didn't allow him to go, and this. So this actually was not there in the original scripture at all. But when they visualized it, or when they were writing the script for it, somehow this Brahmin landlord came out of thin air, right? And it, yes, and that imagery stuck. And many times when I go, people actually they tell me that this has actually happened, right? Oh, they did this, they did this. And that comes to the second part of your question, and I do get often asked, right, that why there is so much of privilege which has been there for Brahmins. Brahmins had abused so many stuff on others. I say, we are not here to support any discrimination, or we are not here to whitewash anything. But पहले तो थोड़ा सबूत निकाल के please put it in front of me. Right? And to give you an example, the best they will come up with is to say Manusmriti has given all these privileges. Yeah, that's the most common one which comes. And for that, my answer would have been that is, please go and read Dharmacharya Professor Dr. P.V. Kani, who has done enormous research on Dharmashastras. You don't have to read the scriptures actually, you go and read that. There, P.V. Kani. So, in his treatise, he even talks about how the privileges which were given to Brahmins were actually nothing in reality. And the only exemption which was allowed in the Dharma Shastra was that the Brahmin will not be killed, but he will be chased out of the country, and his shikha will be cut, and he will be branded. All the other things are given to him also. Now you have to compare and contrast this to what the British enjoyed in India in terms of privileges. And I think there is a section 4 in our book we have documented, if I'm not wrong, section 493, and I think there is a section 499 of the previous penal code, which says that no British can be tried in India by an Indian judge. And I think they have only 1 year of something of maximum punishment. And there were so many things which have been documented even by, I think Professor Sarkar, if I'm not wrong. In his book, he talks about how many plantation workers died, and then the British judge and the doctor will certify it as the spleen broke, something like that, right? And there was no justice. They brought Colonial Whipping Act, and they said dogs and Indians are not allowed. कहाँ से all this? Then they talk about 2000 years back, Manusmriti में कुछ लिखा है. I said, okay, fine. If we want to go into that, then I will give you this shloka, which says that Ashtapadram tu Shudrasya steye bhavati kilpisham Shodasaivastu Vaisyasya Dvatrimsatu Shastriyasya Brahmanasya Chadursashtiki Purnam Vabi Shatam Bhavet. What it says is, when there is a theft, a Shudra will get 8 times the punishment, the Kshatriya will get 16 times, the Vaishya will get 16 times, Kshatriya will get 32 times, the Brahman will get from 64 to 100. Chadushashtihi Purnamabi Shatam Bhavet, up to 100. Yes, and this is, Manusmriti says it is only for theft. If you go to Vyasa Smriti, it says for all, not just for theft. And Katyayana Sastra also says, I think that also will say that. So where is this privilege which came from? It is greater awareness. So what was there was not discrimination. What was there was differentiation of responsibilities, differentiation of work, and differentiation of also punishments which were there. So I hope I answered your question.
I'm Abhishek and I'm a PhD scholar from IIT Delhi. So my question is regarding this Brahmin genocide, regarding that only. So now, like, it's an internal criticism and internal tussle that our society is having right now. So, like, I think yesterday or 2 days before, there was one article in Swarajya Mag, which is you can say right of center or right wing or indie quick article, and it talked about having an Indian Purohita Archaka service, IAPS kind of formation, which will be sponsored by the state, and so that the priests can be trained just like any entrance exam, and they can be allotted. So these are very pertinent questions. How do we look at it? Because we know the problems that bureaucracy has, and now we are asking something more than that, and this is coming from within the Hindu voice. So how do we look at all those things? Yeah, thank you.
So at this juncture, what we are looking at is the hate speech against Brahmins. Somehow what we feel is that sorry, you're able to hear me? So what we are saying is, first we need a equality with others, as in what the constitution guarantees. Why is hate speech against Brahmins seems to be either ignored or seems to be normalized? That is the prashna which we are working on. Then there are other issues, which is in terms of how our own Gurukulas and our own Padasalas need to have more membership. So those are the things which we are looking at. So coming back to your thing, yes, there are initiatives which are going on from many other sides in terms of having more Purohitas or Archakas. In fact, if you see some states like Tamil Nadu, the Archakas who are not Brahmin by birth are in lakhs. So there are what we call as Kuldevata temples which are being managed by them. So it is not something new. Maybe they're talking about certification, which I am not at. But yes, the Kuldevata temples of every person will have their own priest and not necessarily a Brahmin priest.
सवाल कहें वो है सवाल ये कि हम जब भी बात करते हैं जेनोसाइड की तो वो ब्राह्मण आगे लग जाता है, उसके अलावा जो मारा जाता है वो जेनोसाइड की कैटेगरी में नहीं आता है. तो जब तक हम हिंदू के कॉन्क्रीट नहीं होंगे और ब्राह्मण तक जेनोसाइड को सीमित रखेंगे, तो क्या आपको लगता है कि ये जो मुद्दा है सॉल्विंग रहेगा? डॉक्यूमेंटेशन भले कर लें, लेकिन हमारा डॉक्यूमेंटेशन भी इनकम्प्लीट रहेगा. इफ वी विल limited ourselves, if there is a genocide, it means Kashmiri Brahmin. There is a Brahmin genocide. There is a Brahmin here. But I know that there are many others caste also who belongs to the Hindu community, but there was a mass corruption, you can say, in the society. It has happened till recent days that the Maowadi has killed many servants in different area of the, and it was a proxy war. You can say it was a proxy war against the servant. They have used the Maowad and Naxalwad as a tool. The institution behind that was Kattar Islam, or which was promoted by the Vampant, you can say. So I just want to know that कि हमारा बात जो है वो कितना कॉन्क्रीट होना चाहिए ताकि मैसेज क्लियर जाए, और डिवाइडेशन जो है वो उसमें लिमिटेशन आता जाए, वो जो सर्कल है उसमें लूप होल्स ना रहे विद इन द हिंदू.
So the way I understood your question is, are we better with calling it a Hindu genocide and getting more data points than vis-a-vis calling it as a Brahmin genocide? Is that correct? This is a good question. As I said, there is no right or wrong answer, so we have to make our choice. When I made the choice, some of the things which happened was that there is a hate speech which is happening in specific against a community, which is the Brahmin community, and how do we trace it back and how do we trace it to the genocide model? Right? So when you look at the content of hate speech which is there and which is being normalized against Brahmins, is astonishing. So that is going to lead this train towards the genocide. That was number one. Second thing which we said was, whatever we are learning from here, as I said, is not just for Brahmin community, though it is for everyone. Right? It is going to impact all communities, it's not just for Brahmins. So having said that, we said let's first focus on the smaller thing, because all said and done we are small in terms of resources, we are small in terms of time and others. So the more broad-based we do it, the more the data gets scattered and it becomes geographically challenging for us also. So that's why we chose this.
आपके अद्वितीय और समर्पित प्रयास हमारी सभा को आगे भी शोभायमान करता रहेगा, ऐसी हमारी आकांक्षा है, शुभेच्छा है. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद प्रोफेसर कुसुमलता केडिया दीदी जी का, आदरणीय गुरु जी महालिंगम बालाजी का, आदरणीय सरोज गोयल जी का, आदरणीय हरीश गोयल जी का और अक्षय प्रकाशन का, कि वो ऐसी पुस्तकों और पुस्तकें छापें, और हम संगम टॉक्स की तरफ से ऐसे विषयों को आईआईसी के माध्यम से, अपने चैनल के माध्यम से लाने का प्रयास करते रहेंगे.